Hello everyone, welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel. It's snowing outside, almost. And this is Parashat Truma, contribution, Exodus 25:1 to 27:19. This one is called Adam, but in Hebrew, Adam, say it. So much knowledge and wisdom are being imparted to us here. Sometimes I feel like if I could just draw a picture of what we were reading, we would all be shocked. As human beings, we tend to really rely heavily on what we see. I believe it when I see it and all that jazz. But how many times in our short history have we seen and heard, I see it, but I don't believe it. The Babylonians are coming, quick, do tshuva. Nah. The Germans are coming. Nah. The Nazis are coming. Conspiracy. We see that we see what's real and what's false, true or untrue, tangible or intangible, have less to do with the individual's behavior and more so with their internal disposition. What's ticking inside of you over here? The Lord spoke to Moses saying, Daber el bnei Israel, vayikchu li teruma me'et kol ish asher yidabenu libo, tikchu et terumati. Speak to the children of Israel and have them take from me an offering, from every person whose heart inspires him to generosity. You shall take my offering. As we go week by week, of course, listen to last year's teaching. This heavily builds upon the subject that we already have of what this exactly is, and now we're going to get into other details and you can put it together. So again, it will enhance your learning experience. I highly recommend it. Last year was called, If You Build It, He Will Come, right? Okay, great. So let's talk about building it. Why was it worded and presented this way? So we discussed last year double your fun. Go watch that one. One point I want to discuss, though, from what we discussed, was the fact that the Erev Rav were not included in this option. Now, I say option because although God is giving Moses a command over here, go tell the children of Israel, impart upon the children of Israel, this command is an individual offering from each person according to their heart's desire. So, is this a command or not? The only thing that was commanded here was for Moses to tell the people what God had told him. Hey, God said, if anybody wants to give, go ahead. Is that a command, right? The rest is up to the people. But not just all the people, the children of Israel very specifically. Because all the Erev Rav, they would hear this command. They were, situated around. But only those who were really Israel would answer the call. As we know, the Erev Rav, they were all encamped around Israel. Israel had their formation inside, and they were all around. They were not underneath the clouds of glory. We discussed this and why. So they were surrounded, but the Erev Rav never approached. And when I say Erev Rav, I mean those that exited Egypt with Israel, but they said, nah, we'll stay here and give an evil eye to Israel all the while. So they didn't approach, not as long as Moses was there. Anyway, we see that with the golden calf, right? The thing is, they could have easily come in at any point in time and joined with Israel properly. But as we know, their intentions were not pure. And they only latched on to the winning team as they left Egypt when it was utterly destroyed. But it's easier to enjoy the benefits while shunning all the responsibility. As the Erev Rav in the world today sees the responsibility, which is the Torah and the mitzvot, as a burden. To Israel, though, it's a benefit, to say the least. They don't see what we see. It's every day now, you see it's becoming more and more apparent. Through this end, they're going to hate more and more because of this. Through this act, every person would know exactly who they were. Through the act of giving, right? None of the Erev Rav gave anything, while absolutely all of Israel gave in such abundance that Moses had to ask them later to stop. He said, wow. And it was something that solidified Israel with God from their perspective. There were no collectors to go around, hey, what are you going to give? Asking for gold. And there were no fundraisers or GoFundMe accounts, none of that stuff. The word was given, and the hearts of the people spoke. Up until this point, God was the only one doing all the giving. But now they were given the opportunity to build God a dwelling place. And we will touch on that later. Anyone who gave was Israel, and only those who were Israel gave. It was exclusive on both ends right now. Exclusive and inclusive, excuse me. This was so much more than dropping some change in a pushka. Okay, that's Yiddish for a piggy bank. Remember, this generation of the wilderness will be the first to rise at the resurrection of the dead because they were very, very special. When Adam sinned, his single soul shattered into billions of pieces. But then there was a correction made through Abraham, then Isaac, and then Jacob. And it started like this from Adam, and we discussed this in years past. Adam, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. 3 patriarchs. Went then through Jacob to what? To 12 tribes. Then spread out to 70 nephesh, as we see in the Jacob's descent. And then from the 70 nephesh who left Egypt, Shishim Ribo, 600,000, from the ages of 20 to 60. This generation were the 600,000 who would be the final correction for the soul of Adam. Well, we all know what happened. Nevertheless, it was the 600,000 who received the Torah from God and Moses. From God directly, and then from Moses, and then from God through Moses. When they sinned with the golden calf, there was yet another shattering of the pieces, as well as an opportunity for the generations to come to partake in this rectification. Us, or in this case, giving of a teruma and everything that it means. Again, last year's teaching will answer those questions for you. When God already gave the command of the Shema Yisrael, right, in Deuteronomy 6, the children of Israel had already manifested these words 40 years earlier. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Anyone can say these words. Plenty of people do. Like I said, some of y'all, I hope not anybody that's watching this, people like to post it on shirts and whatnot, like it's a joke or something. Or no, I'm definitely respecting these words and understand what it means. See, if they understood what it meant, they wouldn't put it on t-shirts. Anyone could say this, anyone could do this, but what people don't understand is the commitment behind these words. As we have no temple today, how can we possibly commit ourselves to God in this manner? How can we perform mitzvot to perfection when we are so far removed from what was? We have no idea what it means. None whatsoever what it means to have the Shekhinah dwell among us, let alone in our person. I don't care what anybody says. No. This is an impossibility. As this source had all been cut off from the world, and now only exists in the most hidden ways. This is all written. I will hide my face from them. It's written in the 5 books of Moses. Don't come to me. Read your book. When once it was like a river flowing from Eden to water the garden being Yesod, it's now like a trickle of a faucet that hadn't been closed properly. Drip. Drip, like that, like, okay, fine, or maybe less. Anyway, we get a drip here and there, and just enough to sustain existence. It's not that there's not a flow. I'm saying all we see and somewhat comprehend is a drip because we are still alive and breathing somewhat. And just like we have no idea what true joy is because of that, because the Shekhinah is hidden, so too we have no idea, none whatsoever, what true sadness is. As to have that joy, that unity with God taken away. So we don't know. You understand? We're learning things here that happen on a completely different level, but we try. What Israel are given here is the gift of giving, the gift of elevation and fusion, even without them fully being aware of what is happening. You think they understood what was going on? Much more than we do today, obviously. But still, they were not even there. God really treated them like little children because they could not understand. Think about it. It's not that God disrespected Israel. Chas v'shalom. God elevated them more than anyone else in the world. But if your father, who is man of wisdom, comes to a 5 or 3-year-old kid and tries to explain to him things, tries to get him to do things for vegetables are good. I don't like vegetables. Well, you come up with the story or whatever, but give it to them in a positive way to help them out. This is what your father's going to do. You understand? This is what's happening. God is looking after them because they are like children here in the wilderness where everything can kill them. So look at this. I never saw this before. But this theme seems to be repeating itself of the perfection of every single command, right? Let alone 600 of even a single command, let alone 613 of them. As we discussed, in order to perfect the command, one must perfect themselves as we do the same thing over and over and over again. It's not that you're going to be able to do it better, it's that you will be better than doing it. You understand? It starts from you. We're going to see that. And if nothing changes, then we're obviously doing something wrong. But every day is an opportunity. Every day is Modeh Ani. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you brought me back to this body so I could try again and again and again until I get it right. Because when I get it right, I'm right there with you. Or rather, I will be able to see that you have always been here with me. And even change, okay? Just changing oneself. I find it to be incorrect. The incorrect way to properly portray the necessary component for perfection. In other words, us changing ourselves. I would rather call it alignment with what is, was, and what will be. Dig? Positioning yourself properly. But you got to get there first. Thought or intention, speech, and action. These are the basic and necessary elements for a potentially perfect mitzvah. Now look at this. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and have them take for me an offering from every person whose heart inspires him to generosity. You shall take my offering." Speak to the children of Israel. That's speech. And have them take for me an offering. That's action. From every person whose heart inspires him to generosity. That is thought, your intentions, your heart's desire, right? Now look at this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your nefesh, right? It doesn't say soul, it's nefesh. And with all your means. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. That is speech. Because we say it, we have to say it. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your nefesh. That is thought. And with all your means. Actions. Do you see this? And as we've discussed many times before this, your means, what are your means? Meodecha means your physical possessions, including your own body. Because if you don't have any money or possessions, you still have your body, which is technically a physical possession that the Lord your God has imparted to you. Donate your time to others if you have nothing else to give. In other words, everyone should be able to perform this mitzvah, right? Or better yet, why choose? Do both. Give a penny, give two. This is for you. And if you follow this, then you shall be able to take my offering. These are connected. They are as one. And really, what is the offering that God is giving Israel here? We'll get to this as well. This Truma is the same concept of tithing. You see, you think that you are actually giving something that you yourself have earned by the sweat of your brow and the determination of your desire to make a buck or two. But that does not matter really, because whatever you would earn throughout the year has already been determined, and it has zero to do with you. It's what has been decreed for you. The moment you forget that God gave you all your money, or rather all the money that you temporarily possess, or rather all the money that you think that you temporarily possess, the moment you forget that is the moment that you lost it all, because it has no meaning. Because that, at that point, that is the disconnect. And when you are disconnected from God, you're dead. Not only when it comes to money, but when it comes to every single aspect of your life. Baruch Hashem. You understand, Fred, what? You think this is nature who governs everything in nature? It's not natural to breathe. Nothing here is natural. The world would be collapsing in on itself. The reason there's so much focus on money, though, right? Again, also God also focuses on money. The reason that there is a focus on money, it's because it's the strongest force behind people's belief, personal people's belief, the world's physical belief that represents what? Sustenance, strength, freedom, independence, and even life itself. Okay? Hey, well, I need money to live, to buy food, to have a roof over my head and whatnot. Strength, look at me, I'm big, I'm powerful, I could buy this, I could do that, I could get whatever I want, I could build a fortress. Freedom, because people aren't chasing me, I can do what I want, again, and even life itself. Because even a few shekels, you could buy yourself, well, a little bit more, buy yourself a loaf of bread. They consider money life, right? But also, it's even written that a poor person is considered as dead. The reason that decree even exists, listen to this, is because God loves his children so much that should they sin and warrant the death penalty, instead of taking their lives, he can empty their bank accounts, thereby giving them an opportunity to rectify, just as when Jacob all the stuff was taken by Eliphaz, right? The son, his nephew, the son of Esav, go kill your uncle. Jacob's like, you want to kill your uncle? Yeah, but I have to honor thy father and thy mother. Okay, here's how you could do both. Take everything that I have, technically according to the halacha that I taught you, nephew. I am a dead man. You just honored your father, and you did not commit thou shalt not kill. Did not transgress thou shalt not kill, especially your uncle. Deal? Sounds good to me. Peace. You understand? God put this in play to give us an opportunity to live and fight another day. So God here is speaking our language, and that's only because there's no way that we could speak his. You see, this is a grave mistake that most of the world makes. No, you are not speaking God's language. God is something beyond our comprehension. He speaks our language. This is how we are somewhat able to understand. Anyway, one must ask if God requires us to give only 10% out of this is not about tithing, it's the point behind it. God is you have to ask, if God is requiring us to give only 10% out of our 100%, then why did he not just start by giving us 90%? In other words, okay, God, I recognize you gave me all of my money, all of my wealth, all of my everything, now I got to give you 10%, right? Which we see a theme in the Torah: first fruits, cash, kids, everything, bulls, lambs, sheep, everything goes to God. So why? Why didn't God just start by giving you 90%? And this is like our situation here in Truma. All the gold, all the silver, and all the bronze, as well as every single treasure, jewels, fine linen, and so on, that Israel possessed was simply because God himself decreed it to be so. And we know that at the time, Egypt was the wealthiest kingdom in the world, and Israel just cleaned them out. A lot of that stuff was actually Israel's wealth that they had acquired beforehand. They established houses of study. And should there be any doubts, that is why God also gave it as a prophecy to Abraham 430 years prior, Genesis 15:14. And also the nation that they will serve, I will judge, and afterwards they will go forth with great possessions. Rechush gadol, lots of stuff. And they, again, cleaned house. So we know they have the stuff because God never asks for anything which he does not give first. Give me, right? Okay, does God ask you for any task that you cannot fulfill? Of course not. Or that any individual cannot complete? So what's this spiritual cocktail made of? Right? It's very simple, and this is the offering that you shall take from them, gold, silver, and copper. But do you understand what I just said? Okay? Best example, the one to end all the examples, is, how do you like your son? I love him. Thank you so much. I was waiting for this kid for 100 years. Awesome. Give him back. Okay. You see? That's that level of faith that we are not required to do because Abraham already did that for us. So what's all this stuff that God is asking of us now? Gold, silver, and copper, blue, purple, and crimson wool, linen, and goat hair, ram skins dyed red, tachash skins, and acacia wood, oil for lighting, spices for the anointing oil and for the incense, shoham stones and filling stones for the ephod. The ephod is the breastplate, and for the choshen. And before they got all impatient, and what do we need all this? Okay, what are we giving all this stuff for? Before Israel started acting like children, right? What does God say? And they shall make me a sanctuary, and I will dwell in their midst. Oh, okay, great verse, but we're not discussing it again this time, right? Asuli mikdash v'shachanti betucham. Not here. Last year's teaching. And in order for me to dwell in their midst, yes, inside them as well, but wait, this is greater than you even know. What has to happen first? According to all that I show you, the pattern of the Mishkan and the patterns of all its vessels, and so shall you do. The primary metals for the Mishkan are gold, silver, and bronze, representing the neshama, the soul, the ruach, the spirit, and the nefesh, the life force, right? And now remember this, while the other main ingredients are what? Etz, tree, wood. Etz is, whether it's wood or tree, it's still called etz. And that will be explained in just a minute. Now that we have the ingredients that God has given to Israel for them to give back, as the payoff is God in them, what is God showing Moses? Have you ever put this together before? Let's. The Mishkan, Mikdash, Tabernacle, Temple, i.e. dwelling place of God, according to God's word, consists of the ark, the cover of the ark, the table, the menorah, the covers of the tabernacle, the walls, the partition, the altar, the courtyard. There are 9. You'd think it would be 10. Oh, but it is 10. We know we have 10 sfirot, right? We know we got the 10 right here. The 10th is Keter, which is way above all things. But we're going to get to all these 9. Yes, we will. So let's take these apart and spread them out and see what we get. 1, the ark. They shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits its length, 1.5 cubits its width, and 1.5 cubits its height. The ark was the center of everything, surrounded by everything, and this is representative of the heart. By the way, so you know, in Torah, in Judaism, the heart and the mind are one, okay? So you could say your heart, but this is also where the neshama technically is. I mean, technically it's not there, but that's what is its connection. So the heart and the mind are one and the same. So what is the heart of, if not our life source or blood that animates the entire body? Now, think in everything I say here, if I don't give you the spiritual elements, think about the spiritual elements. If I give you the spiritual elements, think about the physical elements, because they're both connected, okay? Instead of we're a little bit more advanced now, I'd like to think. So why is this heart surrounded by trees, right? Wood etz, by trees, because she is a tree of life for all who grasp onto her. Etz chaim hi lamachazikim ba. And what is the center of the body if not tiferet, splendor, also known as Torah, right? The tree of life. Furthermore, acacia trees do not grow in Egypt, but rather in Israel. And if you've listened to other teachings, we have said that when Jacob descended to Egypt, he brought these trees with him and planted them there. He told his sons that when they leave, because they would, to take these same trees with them. Jacob, Israel himself, during his lifetime, partook in the creation of the Mishkan. And you shall overlay it with pure gold, zahav tahol, from inside and from outside you shall overlay it, and you shall make upon it a golden crown all around. Zer zahav saviv. Now zahav tahol is pure gold, as we discussed, but not just gold, it's pure gold. Why is it pure gold? Because this represents the lights of Binah that are 100%, you guessed it, pure. Binah, upper left. You should probably have this by now, and I should probably have a better one soon. Zer. Okay, what is a zer? It is an Israeli saying there. Over zer. But it's not. Zer is considered a crown, but like a smaller crown. Keter, right? Keter is a big crown. Zer is, actually modern day Hebrew, it's a bouquet of flowers. Zer prachim, a flower bouquet. But it's considered like a tiara, like a smaller crown. And zer has the same numerical value as or, light. What shall you put around it? Yes, zer, but rather light. Think physical, think spiritual. And you shall cast 4 golden rings for it, and you shall place them upon its 4 corners, 2 rings on its one side and 2 rings on its other side. 4 golden rings, the 4 archangels, Michael to the right, Gabriel to the left, Uriel to the front, Raphael to the back. Now, when we see 2, they split into 2 groups diagonally. Michael and Uriel are one, Raphael and Gabriel are the other. Now, we're not going to go through every single verse, and there's so much detail here. Come on, give me a break. I'm trying to give you the basic structure over here, and you got to do your own thing. All right, we'll never finish. Let's continue, verse 16. And you shall place into the ark the testimony which I will give you. Et ha'edut, asher eten elecha, that I will give you. And here the ark in Hebrew is missing a vav. So although we read it as edut, testimony, without the vav, it can also be read as adat, right? As in edah, as in congregation, as in unity. Excuse me. But also as in ed, witness. But also as in ed, hey, witness of God, or the testimony of God. Also alluding to Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, large Ayin, I, large Daled, door. I, door, can you see what I am saying? 2, the cover of the ark, kaporet, and you shall make an ark cover of pure gold. 2.5 cubits its length, and 1.5 cubits its width. Why is it called kaporet and not michseh? Michseh is a covering, it's a lid, right? What does the word sound like? Where does this word come from? Kaporet. Kippur, lechaper, Purim, maybe, right? To atone, the Day of Atonement, and Purim. That's why we say even Yom Kippur is short for Yom Purim, because Purim, like we said, in the end of days will be on the highest of heights. Specifically in our month of Adar. Get with it. Do you know what goes on this month? What happens when the kapoet, when the kippur, when the atonement is complete? Then there is purity. And this shows us that even that which surrounds that which is pure is pure within itself, because these are different levels of reality. 2.5 cubits its length and 1.5 cubits its width together, that's how many? That's 4. I needed to use my fingers. Okay, 2.5 plus 1.5, that's 4. Yes, it is. And if you actually draw them equally, you will get what? 4 vavs, 4 lines. The numerical value of the letter vav is 6. Also, because there's the tfachim and the amot. Anyway, 6 tfachim in 1 amah. Right? Yeah, 6 tfachim in 1 amah. 6 times 4 equals 24, as in the 24 books of the Torah, as in the 24 gifts a bride receives on her wedding day. I discussed this with you, when I discussed with you before Shavuot, right? Listen to the video before Shavuot. I also got married on Erev Shavuot. As the bride is being presented to the groom, so too is the Torah being presented to the children of Israel. You see how beautiful that is? 24 books of the Torah, 24 gifts of the bride. It's a marriage made in heaven and earth. So the bride is the Torah, yes? Okay, good. And as we know, a woman of valor, Eshet Chayil, is Ateret Ba'ala, is the crown of her husband. Eshet Chayil, Ateret Ba'ala. Atara is also, it's a crown. Now, tell me, what would you say envelops our physical heart? What's around the heart? Our 2 lungs, right? 1 and 2. And you shall make 2 golden cherubim. You see? You shall make them of hammered work for the 2 ends of the ark cover. Lungs get inflated and deflated with air. They got wings, remember that? Also known as ruach, spirit. And so you have the wings of the cherubim, miksha. Now it says miksha achat. It usually means like 1 piece. So you don't take it and put it on there. It's just 1 chunk of gold molded from 1 chunk of gold. But miksha comes from the word koshi, difficulty, kasheli. It's difficult for me, right? Because just like there is difficulty for the light to spread forth from Binah down to us over here to where we are in Malchut, so too it is difficult for air to reach all the tiny passageways of the heart and lungs. That's why I said, don't you dare take any breath for granted. The only reason you are inhaling and exhaling is because God makes it so. I will arrange my meetings with you there. V'noadati lecha sham. Here's the tent of meeting right now. This is what's going on. Now you'll see later on the tent of meeting with Moses. He took the tent, and that was called the tent of meeting because the tent of meeting is where the Shekhinah is. Before the Mishkan was built, wherever Moses went, who was married to the Shekhinah, that's where the tent of meeting was. But then he came back and he dwelt there. They did tshuva. Everything was good. That's a tent of meeting. So, I will arrange my meetings with you there, and I will speak with you. He's talking to Moses from atop the ark cover, from between the 2 cherubim that are upon the ark of the testimony. All that I will command you unto the children of Israel. Wow. So who is God speaking to here? Who is God saying that he will speak with them right there? Mi ben shnei hakuvim, from between the 2 cherubs. Mi ben mem shnei shin hakuvim Moshe. Moshe's name is the 2 cherubim in between them. Do you see this? I will arrange my meetings with you there, and I will speak with you from atop the ark cover, from between the 2 cherubim, Moses, that are upon the ark of the testimony, and that I will command you unto the children of Israel. Oh, wow. If you ever want to know of yet another exclusive place reserved for Moshe Rabbeinu, alav shalom, it's between the 2 cherubim upon the ark of the testimony in the tent of meeting. Okay. Now we know that the ark is the heart, right? And that God, and what comes out of the heart, it's the Torah, right? And God is saying that we will speak to that He'll speak to Moses from His heart, from my heart to your heart, and I will speak with you from atop the ark cover. And what are the words of God if not bread for the soul, right? God's Torah, God's word is bread for the soul. It feeds you. And where does bread go? Where do you put your bread? In a bread box. Come on, I'll just get. Where did the challahs go? Where did the challahs go? And you shall make a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits its length, 1 cubit its width, and 1.5 cubits its height. 3. The table. What was on this magnificent table but 12 delicious loaves of bread freshly baked on Friday and placed on the Shabbat table? Two columns of 6 each. And you shall make for it a frame and handbreadth wide all around, and you shall make a golden crown for its frame all around. Vasita zer zahav, zer, oh, light, remember. Lemisgalto, its frame. What would be another word for frame? What is, okay, you take a frame of a picture. What do you call the parts around? Borders, right? Limits, misgeret, that's what it's called. Misgeret is how you say it in Israel. Misgeret comes from the word sagur, closed, like a mem patuach and a mem sagur. Mem patuach looks like some, no mem patuach. Nothing's here. Okay, anyway, an open mem or a closed mem. Closed mem is like this, and they have different meanings. Anyway, closed. And the root of sagur is the word seger. Are we familiar with this word? I'm sure all my Israeli friends are very familiar with this word, as this is what we are currently going through, otherwise known as a lockdown. No one gets in, no one gets out. Did I say no one? I meant nothing. But let's get back to holy matters, shall we? God will deal with the rest. Why does holy bread from the holy mouth need to have limitations? The bread itself does not, of course, but where it goes is very specific. Like we said, on Rosh Hashanah, a person's livelihood, their income, their bread is determined to a T. Everything that you make, if let's say you had a bag full of cash for whatever reason and you lost it, don't be upset. You could, sure, whatever. But that was God's doing. Everything. Someone robbed you. Someone stole from you, cheated you. God did that. That person was just acting like an agent. They are guilty as hell. Don't get me wrong. But God made that happen, and you ended that year with exactly how much was determined to begin with. But you get exactly what you need and not what you think that you need. You see a very wealthy person, don't be hating, okay? This is what God decreed for that person. A lot of the times, the wealth itself is actually given as a punishment to these people. How many wealthy people do you know that are miserable, okay? I know very, very, very wealthy people that had terrible health tragedies in the family that all the money in the world couldn't fix. Do you think they wouldn't give every penny they had in order to get back what they had lost or fix what was broken? It's you don't know the cheshbon, right? Some people need yachts, private jets, and several islands, but who are we to judge? If anything, we should be jealous of the person who is a walking encyclopedia of Torah and wisdom and humility. And that jealousy should not even be coming from a bad place, but rather from a place of motivation to emulate them. Hence great rabbis, sages, everyone in between, all the way back to Abraham. It's something to aspire to. We pray for what? For Abraham's faith. You should pray. Pray for Abraham's faith, for Isaac's fearlessness, for Jacob's perseverance, for Joseph's innocence, for Moses' humility, for Aaron's desire for peace, for David's heart, and for Solomon's wisdom. Do we lack role models? Do we act like any of them? Each one gets according to their share, as each person, angels as well, every living thing has their tikkun. Everything ever created has to rectify what initially started with Adam, because everything was under Adam's dominion. So when he, so did everything. When he fell, all the worlds were created and he fell through everything. So, why do we receive the manna every day? And it would just last that day. Why not just give it at the beginning of the week or the month or the year? Hey, ration the manna. What do you call it? Collect as much as you can. Say it like a hamster or a squirrel or a chipmunk. Why? Why do we have to go every single day? Because it builds trust. It would be there every day for 40 years. There was no doubt, just as the sun was going to rise, that God would provide for his beloved children just as he does for all his creation. See, the rest of creation, they're not worried about that. They're not sitting like, how am I going to eat tomorrow? Tomorrow I'm going to get my food. It just is. We're the only ones that are stressing over this stuff. And this is all coming from divine light, of course, meaning this isn't a matter of lack, but rather perfection. Only thinking that we would be or could be lacking in the scenario is our vision. You understand? And this would only be due to lack of faith. How do you see the world? How do you see has God not come through for you every single time? Whether you were up or down? Are you still alive? Are you eating? Okay. Then there is still chance. You see, there's still time for you. Then it means you're still here. As long as you're still alive, here you are. And you're still doing God's work. That's a good thing. You are where God wants you to be. Not because he is angry if you think that you're suffering, but rather because he loves you and you have a greater tikkun to do. You are helping more. Call it that. And you shall make a golden crown of divine light as its boundaries. And you shall place on the table showbread before me at all times. V'natata ala shulchan lechem panim lefanai tamid. Now the word panim, this is very, very interesting, right? As panim means face, the bread of the face. And also with a different punctuation, same exact spelling, we get the word panim, inside. So panim and pnim, it's exactly the same word. It means inside or internal, because through one's panim, through your face, you can see their pnim, their inside, right? Spiritual, physical, Mishkan, man. Meaning that you can see their heart. And where have we started building this glorious house for God from, if not from the heart? So we go from the heart to the lungs, to the mouth, to the face. And what are the distinguishing features of one's face? I'm not talking about the hair, the face. This is the face, right? These are the spiritual gateways, if you will. 1, mouth. 2 and 3, nostrils. Eyes, 4 and 5. Ears, 6 and 7. And when the face shines with these 7 lights, so does the body, and we get to the menorah. And you shall make a menorah of pure gold. The menorah shall be made of hammered work. Its base and stems, its goblets, its knobs, and its flowers shall all be one piece, one chunk within it. This was one of the anomalies that eluded Moses. Remember, when he was shown all these things, he wasn't shown them in the physical sense. He saw the spiritual manifestation of them. Now we can't even begin to imagine or comprehend what he saw, let alone how to make it. And that's exactly what happened right here. If you'll notice in the text, even the language is different. Check this out. Before and after the making of this menorah, the language says ta'aseh, you will make this, you will make that. But in regard to the menorah, it says te'aseh, it shall be made. By who? Meaning that you supply the gold, put it in the fire, and it will be made. Meaning, I'll take care of the rest. This is also very apparent because there are no measurements here. This is God's holy Mishkan. You see it, they will this wide and this high, made of this and that. Here's like, make me a menorah. Go ahead. Right? If it isn't given, it's given elsewhere. This is also the same concept of the oral law. If it's not given here and God gives a command, you don't throw that command away because God didn't give you the details. That means it's written somewhere in the oral law. But this is also why Moses had a hard time, because of what he actually saw. It's not a mitzvah of how to perform a mitzvah. It's not saying, okay, give me a Pri Tzadal for Sukkot. What is a Pri Tzadal? What is a citrus fruit? Which one? Why? You understand? This is the menorah, representing the 7 lights of the face and so much more, which we will see. God said, it'll be made. Just get me the material. So if you've noticed, all the other vessels and parchments and everything, they all had very precise measurements, but not over here. So why? And this is beyond our comprehension as well. The metaphorical face of God somehow translating into a candelabra. I say metaphorical because, again, before and after the Ten Commandments, God said, make sure that you guys understand that you saw no image. Okay? Remember, God is speaking our language. We are not speaking His. He's dumbing everything down so we could be like, okay, right? So we can be like, but people, oh, God's just like a... No, He's not. Anyway, everything that we are discussing here, the Mishkan and everything in it, is but a pale reflection of the upper world, which is only upper as far as we are concerned because it goes so much further. Just learning about this stuff gives me a headache. I'm done. I don't know. I just sit there sometimes really and get frustrated. I'm like, you feel, the more you learn, I'm getting smaller and smaller the more I learn of how everything is. But yet, we got a job to do in all of this. Now we have 6 candles, as we know, 3 on each side and 1 in the center, the shamash. Or like you light the Hanukkah candle, the middle one is called the shamash. That's 8 candles, but these all 7 of these is a menorah. It counts. So that's 6 plus 1 essentially. I'm just building it right now for the explanation. These are the one. Actually, Motzei Shabbat, after we do Havdalah, from the wine that we pour over there, we put the candle out in the wine that we just poured out on the plate. Then we take with that wine, because it's holy blessed wine, we go through this sefirot on our body, and then we also take it, we go for, the mouth, the nostrils, the eyes, and the ears, and we just built a menorah on our own face. Where do you think we get it from? So, we're speaking of high holy things here. Everyone who's been watching these teachings you all have the knowledge of what I'm presenting to you here. In other words, I'm just putting these things together for you, but I've taught you all the things that I'm speaking of. Now let me help you though with the understanding of this. So you have the knowledge, let's get with the understanding so we can maybe get some wisdom. Do we know what Ze'ir Anpin is? Okay, of course we do, right? It's these 6 filot. This is the Ze'ir Anpin. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. These 6, right? Now, do we know what the words Ze'ir Anpin actually means? It means small face. Ze'ir, small, Anpin, face. Because it is but a reflection of Arich Anpin, the large face. Technically speaking, Arich Anpin are these upper ones, Keter Chachma Bina, or Chachma Bina Vadat, also known as Chabad, right? But again, but that's 3 and that's 6. No, it doesn't have to match according to our understanding. Microcosm. Remember, there was a tzimtzum done, a constriction that God made of Himself in order to, just the dumbing down. We'll dumb it down and call it the dumbing down. With all due respect, of course. So, it is the reflection of Al-Khanpin, the large face. Now, we've discussed plenty of times that each sephira emanates and radiates its own unique characteristics to the world from above. In fact, there are many combinations that can be made, not only from the sephirot, but also from the columns themselves, the right, the left, and the center column. Nothing that is pure holiness is ever wasted. There are no klipot over there, although just like there are the positive sephirot, there are also negative sephirot. It's not relevant to us. You focus on this, that's all you have to worry about. But what is the one sephira that does not possess its own light? Again, we discussed this, right? But rather is the receptacle, the receiver for all the lights that come to it, and that would be Malchut. From all the lights of everything has their own light. You know what the color of Malchut is? It's black, okay? Because it doesn't reflect, and yet this right here receives all the lights of all these things and is able to retain it and then give it back. Don't underestimate this. This is they're all important. You need them all, right? But we are here, so it's more relevant to us. So what does Malchut do once it receives all the lights together? It fuses them all, and as one together, it does what the others cannot do. It shoots them back up to its source, all the way back up. Yesod, where is it? Tiferet, Dat, Keter, right? Now, we have a menorah. 3 on one side, 3 on the other. Here's the language. That's why it says 3 on one side, 3 on the other. 3 represents the 3 vavs, making it very easy for you. 3 lines, which make up the letter Hey. The letter Hey, where's the letter Hey? Down there. 3 vavs. One down, the long one down, across, and also Hey. And as we discussed on Pesach, when you put the blood on the door, you do not do a chet, which is this over here, which looks like a doorway, but rather you put the Hey very specifically. So we have Hey on one side, and we have 3 Hey on the other side. And now we got the thing in the middle. What's the thing in the middle? The thing in the middle is the Vav. This is also the middle candle. So we have a Hey, and we have a Vav, and we have a Hey. Do we see what we're missing here? Where's the Yud of the 4-letter name of God? The Yud is above. That is Binah, right? Binah is above. There's the Iran Pin, Chokhmah, Binah, coming down to Chesed, Ze'ir Anpin, Yesod Malchut. Now this is also very interesting. Even though Binah is known as mother, as Chokhmah is known as father, Binah is consisted of 2 words, ben, son, and Yud Hey. Bet, Yud, Nun, Hey. That's how you spell Binah. You take the Bet and the Nun, that's Ben, and then you have Yud and Hey. That's Yah, Son of God, right there. That's the Yud that is focused in the center pillar and candle of the menorah. And as all the candles would be lit, all their flames would lean towards the center candle. So you light the flames, it goes whoop like this, inward. Pretty cool, right? Now, we can see, logic would dictate that first the structure be built before the power source is there, right? We discussed Sof Ma'aseh Machshavat Chila, but this is how men do it, right? But this is the master of the universe we're talking about. Works differently, works inside out. So, our human logic doesn't understand this. So we're working from the inside out here along with God. We have the heart, we have the lungs, we have the mind, we have the head, we have the face. We even have above the head. What comes next? How about the weaving together of the tendons and veins and sinews and muscles and so on? Pay close attention to the colors, because we are coming up to 5, the covers of the tabernacle. I'm at 26:1 now. And the Mishkan you shall make, ve'et Mishkan ta'aseh 10 yeriot, and the Mishkan you shall make out of 10 curtains, consisting of twisted, fine linen, and blue, purple, and crimson wool. A cherubim design of the work of the master weaver, you shall make them. Why 10 curtains? 10 sephirot corresponding to the human body. What about the cherubim design? What's in the blood? Is not the life in the blood? The book of Leviticus. We have nefesh, the power source that through the ruach, spirit, is connected to the neshama and the nefesh, our soul. These are all connected. You see, just as it is up there, so it is down here. And just as it is inside, it is also outside on a lesser thing, okay? So today we might learn from the Sfirot the different dimensions of it. In other words, it's not a 2D drawing, okay? Also, we learned that Chesed is over here. It's backwards. Okay, I'm facing you. Chesed is to the right and Gvura is to the left, but it's on my right and Gvura is to the left. But also, Chesed is the innermost part, and Gvura is around it. So it's like a Russian, those babushka dolls, right? There's so many different ways to look at it, but we're slowing down. Okay. Anyways, much lesser levels. And then you shall make curtains of goat hair. For a tent over the Mishkan, you shall make 11 curtains. Why goats? Why goat hairs? And why are the curtains in this context referred to as a tent? Goats because they represent judgment. We can see this that during Yom Kippur, there is a goat for God and a goat for Azazel. Aaron puts his hands, boom, there you go. Sorry, thank you, right? It's an atonement for our sins. Flesh within itself is a sin, meaning of a lower existence, because it can only be sustained by non-spiritual things. It's not that flesh is a sin. The sin comes through the flesh, is what I'm saying. You understand, okay? I hope you understand. And now we can see the translation in the language between the inner parts and the outer parts. As God even gave Adam and Eve shirts of skin, kutnot or, in order for them to be able to exist in this fallen physical world. Adam was a being of ol, with an aleph, and then aleph vav resh, that's light. Then he changed the aleph to the ayin, and that became ol, skin. Same sounding word, different letter, and that means everything. So God gave Adam and Eve skin so they could survive in this world because of being of pure light. Not here. So the judgment is closer to the outside because this is its place, as the mercy is within, closer to the pure heart, the pure gold, as we discussed. We can read this in the upcoming verses as the gold loops are on the inside, while the copper ones, the less expensive, the less fine materials, are on the outside. It's hints, but very clear pictures all around. Now, as we move onward, the flesh becomes more apparent. The muscles and the redness of the lower levels of our epidermis can be seen throughout the child's development, right? It's not blood red, but reddish in nature, right? If you cut your skin open, you peel back the skin, it's red, okay, regardless of whatever color your skin is. And you shall make a covering for the tent of ram skins, dyed red, and covering of the tachash skins above. What does this mean? Therefore, it is written me'adamim, right? Vasita michse le'oel orot elim me'adamim, reddish, becoming red, as opposed to adumim, straight up red. And this caps out perfectly. Each of the patriarchs had their own animal. And we can also see it from their life association and the significant points therein. The bull, Abraham, the bull is what got him to Ma'arat HaMachpelah. He was the one that was sacrificing the bulls. The ram, obviously, Isaac. And the sheep, who was the shepherd? Jacob. It was all about the sheep. A ram in Hebrew is called ayil, okay? As it states in the verse, Orot elim me'adamim, reddish ram skins. And this is also why the gevurah, the judgment, represented by Isaac, is exactly where it needs to be, specifically with the ram, the actual animal, the ram, because we know that the ram was a substitute for Isaac himself. But not just any ram, as we have learned, as this one was created in the first 6 days of creation specifically for that purpose. And the wonderful hint in the verse is Genesis 22:8, during the portion of the binding of Isaac. And Abraham said, God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And they both went together. Hebrew. Vayomer Avraham, Elokim yira'eh lo haseh le'olah bni vayilchu shneim yachdav. God will provide for himself. But it was not a lamb, you see. Because within these 3 words in Hebrew, God will provide for himself, God already gives us the answer for the substitute. Elokim yira'eh lo. Elokim with an aleph, yira'eh with a yud, lo, lamed. The first letters spell out ayil, ram. There you go. God will provide a ram instead of you, right there in the text. But you need to know what to look for, or else you start believing crazy things. And so when we read here that the covering of the tent, which are the upper and lower layers of the flesh, the skin, we know that this is the furthest part of our physical existence. This is the This is the least significant, if you will, necessary. But again, this is where all the wash your hands. See what I'm saying? Okay. Once tendons, muscles, sinews, veins, and flesh are complete, what do we need in order to have them stand and not just be, jelly dolls? And if you think about it, we just went from extreme judgment, which is not only apparent by the obviousness of goats and Isaac's ram, but by the dominant color red as well, right? We're talking red. We've discussed the colors of what they are. So a balance must be made, and we go from judgment to the other side, to mercy, from red to white. And I'm talking about the bones, and behold, 6, the walls of the tabernacle. And you shall make the planks for the Mishkan of acacia wood upright. Here we go. We have a structure. And this is how it's made. 10 cubits shall be the length of each plank, and 1.5 cubits shall be the width of each plank. A cubit is around 50 centimeters, meaning that each plank is 5 meters high and 75 centimeters wide. What's so special about these proportions? Remember who gave them? God, okay? And what they are being applied to. These are the perfect proportions for a structure, because if the width would have been any smaller, the structure would fall. And every piece counts, so there's no need to be wider than what it needs to be. This is the Mishkan. Everything is built to perfection, and you don't need more in order for it to stand. These proportions come out to be 1/6. The width comes out to be 1/6 of the height itself. Our sages bring with the story of Daniel when Nebuchadnezzar built the statue of gold that everyone had to bow down to. Daniel wouldn't bow down to it. They made the width of the statue only 1/10 of its height, which means that the statue should have fallen. But that's exactly what was going to happen anyway. When they began to release the support beams, they realized that the statue would tip over. So what did they do? These evil, thieving fools who stole all the goods from Jerusalem, from the temple, they wrote down God's explicit name, the Shem HaMfurash, on parchment. Remember, they sacked Jerusalem, they sacked the temple, they took all its treasures. They took the holy name and they put it in the mouth of the statue along with their incantations. And so the statue defied the laws of physics and stood. When they gave Daniel the option of bowing down to the statue, of bending the knee, or death, he said, oh, okay. He said, sure, I'll take a knee. Or did he? Of course he didn't. In fact, it's a prohibition of Ya'areg v'bal Ya'avor. If you know what that is, that means that you must choose death before you choose idolatry. If someone has a gun to your head, go ahead, give your allegiance to whatever. Say that your life is in the hands of whatever, anyone but God. Guess what? You choose death because there's no redemption for you after that. You choose death, you go right up, you are martyred for God's name. Anyway, Daniel was as wise as they come, and he knew exactly what they were up to. So he said, hey, give me a ladder. And they said, what do you need a ladder for? Just bow down. He said, but I want to kiss its face. And they thought to themselves, well, this could be a great, great PR thing for us. This Jew is going all the way up there to kiss the statue's face for everyone to see. So they got him a ladder. He climbed up to the top. He leaned in for the kiss, but he snatched the parchment out of the statue's mouth. Immediately, the statue crumbled to the ground. And he was like, I don't know what happened. I guess it wasn't mutual. And that was the end of that. Anyway, these are the proposed proportions and solid foundations according to God. Each plank shall have 2 square pegs, rung like one every other, even with the other. So shall you make all the planks of the Mishkan. Now, in the Hebrew it says, Shtei yadot lakeresh ha'echad. Shtei yadot, as in yadaim, yad, hands, or arms. Zroa is arms, but yad is also considered the whole thing. And it's, what are they? They're folded. They're folded over next to each other. As chesed, arms, chesed, and gvura are clasped together to form an unbreakable synergy of Tiferet. We got arms. How about legs? Let's give them some legs. And you shall make 40 silver sockets under the 20 planks, 2 sockets under the planks for its 2 square pegs, thank you, and 2 sockets under 1 plank for its 2 square pegs. The Mishkan must stand upon 2 legs, and they are netzach, eternal, or victory, and hod, glory. On to 7, the partition, the parochet. Wait a minute. Right now you're probably saying to yourself, hey, parochet, partition, sounds a lot like kapolet, the covering of the ark, in which case, good for you, by the way. It does, because it's exactly the same letters in a slightly different order. Because a covering is also a separation. And the function of the partition is to separate between the Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies, and the Kodesh, the Holy. These separates dimensions and realities between the upper and the lower, and between the inner and the outer. Our sages deduced from the width of the partition, because we don't give the thing, the width of the partition in relation to the covering and all the other measurements. It would be 1/6 of an amah, which we said is around 50 centimeters. 6 tefachim make 1 amah, and so each tefach is around 8 centimeters. We keep seeing the 3 levels of association within 3 coverings and partitions. As we have the parochet separating the neshama from the ruach, and the walls which separate the ruach from the nefesh. Now, in the rest of this description, you can read of where these vessels are placed. You should read of where these vessels are placed and their orderly function, which are likened to our internal organs. It's amazing. But you can study that on your own. I'm just trying to help you again with the structure over here. I'm giving you, so it's like, it's like just fill out the thing, okay? So once the body is complete, it has to be nourished in the physical sense, because now we are moving outward. The holy bread, lechem hapanim, bread of the face, is internal bread. It symbolizes the spiritual sustenance, right? The word of God, spiritual sustenance, which is the primary source of life. This is for your neshama, for your soul. But we live in a physical world. And in order to elevate it, as is all of Israel's task, we must be nourished and sustained to give us strength and blessing in order to see that task through. So we have bread for the soul. What are we missing? What goes on the table? Meat and wine, right? Bread is, as we discussed before, I'm sure we discussed before, maybe with Anarina. Bread is mercy. And what is wine? Wine is judgment. And what is flesh? What is the meat? It also falls within judgment, which we just learned. And all this judgment is to be amended and rectified. But it does not come near mercy, not at this point. It has to come in a very specific way. There's an order. And so we need a special place for it. And that is none other than 8, the altar, the Mizbayach. I'm at 27:1. And you shall make an altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long, 5 cubits wide, and the altar shall be square, and its height shall be 3 cubits. I gave a teaching about the altar last year and how your table at home is called a Mizbeach, and it is your responsibility to treat it as such, and because we don't have a temple today, that can substitute that. Now, we brought examples even from Ezekiel 41:22, who called the altar an altar and table in the same verse. That's how we know that it's the same thing. And it's through God's words. The altar was wood 3 cubits high and 2 cubits long, just like God told Moses to make over here. And its corners and its length and its walls were wood. And he spoke to me, this is the table that is before the Lord. Hamizbeach et 3 amot gavha ואורכו 2 אמות ומקצועותיו לא ארכו וקירותיו עץ וידבר אליי זה השולחן אשר לפני השם. And what was he shown? What's happening in this chapter right now? Ezekiel. He's getting a 4D tour through the future temple. What this also shows is that the inner temple and the outer altar, the inner table, and the outer altar, each are their own unique element, but they are one together. They have their own unique properties, but they're one. Just like mercy and judgment, they are different. They have different functions, and yet combined, they form perfection and truth. Emet, right? The altar is our gateway for sustenance from the world, in order that we can receive sustenance from God through that gateway. And guess who becomes a conduit for God's holiness in the world? That will be us. And this is our presentation to the worlds, upper and lower. The courtyard, Chatzer, and you shall make the courtyard of the Mishkan on the southern side. There shall be hangings from the courtyard of twisted fine linen, 100 cubits long on one side. Now we know that the altar was in the courtyard because that's where the flesh and wine had to be consumed, meaning the physical elements. This is also why the altar is likened to the stomach. But these three sections, the courtyard, the tent of meeting, and the Holy of Holies, does not only correspond to three somewhat comprehensible levels of our existence, but also to the three levels of the worlds, the olamot, the courtyard, which is the lowest, nefesh, olam ha'asiyah, the world of action, that's where we are. 2, the tent of meeting, it splits into 2, right? The Kodesh and Kodesh Kodeshim. Ruach, Olam Ha'asiyah, the world of formation. 3, the Holy of Holies, the Neshama, Olam HaBriyah, the world of creation. But there is still one more world, the highest of 4, and that is the world of emanation, Olam HaAtzilut. And what is the part of our existence that corresponds to this world? This is a level above our neshama, above our soul, and this is called chaya, life. The reason these are not accounted for is not because they are not relevant, chas v'shalom, but rather they're not here. They're way, way above there, okay? It's actually about what goes down here. Furthermore, our work is not done in any of the higher worlds, but only here in the lowest of the low. Because it's only through this place that we can properly correct the highest of the high. And what is the Mishkan and later the temple but a blueprint of the holy temple and its vessels in heaven, shown to Moses, manifested with these earthly materials and yet synced up perfectly with that which is pure spirit and holiness. If we put all these together, don't you see what we get? Do you see what God is showing us and why it's so important to know these things, especially for the things to come? The question always comes up from the other side, and if you're struggling with this question by people, here's your answer, stating that God doesn't dwell in houses built by hands. Obviously. God isn't a man either, but that seems to elude many. But here's the thing, God doesn't need a house. He doesn't need your prayers, your sacrifices, your mitzvot, your tithes. God doesn't need anything because He is everything. He doesn't need a makom, a spot. He is referred to as hamakom. He is the spot. You see? And hamakom, the spot, told us to build a house for Him in this makom, in this spot. Or as the original Mashiach and literal Ben David, son of David, King Solomon said, in the dedication of the temple on Mount Moriah in Jerusalem, Israel, but will God indeed dwell on earth? Behold, the heaven and the heaven of heavens cannot contain you, much less this temple that I have erected. And you shall turn towards your servant's prayer, to his supplication, O Lord my God, to hearken to the song and to the prayer that your servant is praying before you today, that your eyes may be opened towards this house, night and day, towards the place which you said, my name will be there, to listen to the prayer that your servant will pray towards this place. God chose to have his Shekhinah dwell in this house. He chose to have his name there. He chose Moses to give this message, and he chose the children of Israel to build it. Israel does not bring the elements. Israel are the elements themselves. The Mishkan is likened to an earthly Adam, man, Israel only, oh yeah, and each man in Israel are likened to the Mishkan. As we read in Numbers 19:14, Zot HaTorah, Adam ki amut be'oel. This is the law. If man dies in a tent, why didn't it say Ish? Where it says Adam? Because he wanted to refer to Israel, who are the only nation to receive the law. This is the law, Adam, okay? Specifically as Adam, because we are the only ones doing a tikkun for Adam. Remember how we started this whole thing? While the rest of the nations are referred to as Ben Adam, son of man, but we are the only ones referred to as Adam. Adam. So when we read these words, speak to the children of Israel and have them take for me an offering from every person whose heart inspires him to generosity, you shall take my offering. You should now know that it's not just about calling yourselves anything, but delving deep into this specific matter, and by doing so, the fragment that is your soul is correcting the 600,000 souls who built the Mishkan. It is in their merit also that we are here. The same 600,000 who came from the 70 Nefesh of Jacob as he descended to Egypt. The same Jacob, son of Isaac, son of Abraham, who rectified the soul of Adam himself. You see the link? These are the foundations of our faith, the pillars of our very existence as a people and as a nation of one. Although we are many souls, we make up one soul. Although we are many men, we make up one man, Adam. And this is through the building of this very Mishkan. Each man, I say man meaning man, Israel, women obviously also. Each man giving according to their heart's desire. And now I want you to consider this. And God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. Now let's read this one more time with new eyes and new understanding as to who we are. And God created Israel in his image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. And God blessed them. And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and rule over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the sky and over the beasts that tread upon the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every seed-bearing herb, which is upon the surface of the entire earth, and every tree that has seed-bearing fruit, it will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth, and to all the fowl of the heavens, and that's the angels, by the way, and to everything that moves upon the earth, in which there is a living spirit, every green herb to eat. And it was so. God just put the universe under us. Is this not still our task to this very day to rectify all these things, to finish what Adam started? Are these not the promises that God gave Abraham, Isaac, and Israel? It is. They are. He did. God never changes, nor does his word. And just like then, God looks upon us today as we stumble through life just trying to get it right. And God saw all that he had made. And behold, it was very good. And it was evening and it was morning the sixth day. And what comes next? Shabbat. We build ourselves according to the Mishkan, and we build the Mishkan according to ourselves. All done through Torah, all come together as the building blocks that rectify the world, concluding God's work of the 6 days of creation and resting with him for the Shabbat eternal. Learn this stuff, please. You're gonna need it. This Friday, Thursday night to Friday night, entering into Shabbat, was the birthday and the death day of Moshe Rabbeinu. We are doing this now because he was who he was and he gave us the Torah. He brought us the Torah. Study this Mishkan in his merit. This is what he gave us according to the word of God. So have a good week. Do not bend the knee, and Shabbat Shalom.